Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are starting a reading vlog. First things first, I want to get out of the way. I sound sick because I am. I have a very stuffy nose. I did have a sore throat, but I'm kind of getting over that. Like it doesn't really bother me anymore. I don't have aches, body aches, or like anything. I have like a slight headache, but that's just because I keep blowing my nose. But I wanted to film something this week and I don't want to do a sit down video while this is like still congested. I was going to do a book haul and I did film it, but then the video, like the format wasn't compatible. I don't know. I don't know what happened there. It scrapped the video footage anyways and I'll refilm it another time. But I thought it'd be nice to just film a vlog. This would be a theme vlog because it is the middle of October and I haven't read anything like spooky or scary or anything of that nature. The last thing I read was a nonfiction, so I thought to gather a stack of books that I have my eye on. Will I read all of these? No, probably not. I'd hope to get this video out by Halloween, so this is something you can watch around that time or whenever, honestly. But that would be the goal. So I have probably half a month to film this vlog, which is, that's not what that's a good amount of time to film a reading vlog. I have 7 books here, which is totally possible, but I am a slow reader and I'm embracing that. Well, no, I'm actually a fast reader, but I get distracted easily and I have like a billion and a half hobbies and other obligations, obviously. But here's a stack of books. Let's quickly go through them and talk about what I have my eye on. Hopefully, throughout the progression of this vlog, I will not be sick anymore and my voice will get better. The first book that I'm for sure going to start off the vlog with is the Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. This is a library book, so I want to read this for sure before I have to return it. This book, I believe, is about a woman who marries a gentleman and she has to go live in his hacienda. It's supposed to be Mexican Gothic meets Rebecca from the plot, but I've also heard that some people expected more Gothic vibes, but it ended up being more pulpy. I'm not 100% sure. Obviously, I haven't read it, but either way, I'm very good at like managing and changing my expectations like midway through a book. So if it doesn't end up being more Gothic, then I think it's supposed to be because I did really enjoy Mexican Gothic. I haven't read Rebecca yet. I think I'll still like this. I've been really interested in this author for some time. I really wanted to read her newest release, which is the Possession of Alba Diaz? I think that's same author. This is for sure what I'm going to start off the vlog with, just so you know. Another author that I've read from before and I do enjoy is Grady Hendrix, the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. This author gets a lot of flack for how he writes female characters, which is totally fine. That's like your prerogative. But I actually really liked his characters. I've read Horror Store, My Best Friend's Exorcism, and We Sold Our Souls, and I've liked all of those. I had not like many problems with any of the characters, honestly. But this book is kind of a response to, from what I understand, his book, My Best Friend's Exorcism, which focused on teenagers, and a lot of the adults in that story were kind of like dicks. But this is about a mother, like a suburban mom, and she joins like a book club, and they're 100% sure that one of their new neighbors is a vampire and is hurting people. I know a lot of the themes and the topics that come about in response to this book, and I will keep that in mind when I read it. But I've had good success with Grady Hendrix. I'm interested in some of his newer releases as well. I tend to like him, so this is also something that I'm looking forward to in this vlog. I have two books by Stephen Graham Jones. I have The Angel of Indian Lake, which is the third book in the Indian Lake trilogy. I love the first book in this trilogy, which was My Heart is a Chainsaw, one of my favorite books of all time. It's not a library edition. Well, it technically is a library edition. I bought it off of eBay. I love the first book in this series. It's one of my favorite books of all time. Definitely one of my favorite horrors of all time. And I the main character Jade, she is so realized. I'm convinced Stephen Graham Jones just like met this woman or this young girl in real life and just like wrote her into a book because she's so lifelike. I really love the first book in the series. I don't love reading series in vlogs, just in case if you're watching and you haven't read the series. I don't want to not spoil anything because I would never spoil, but I know that when I watch a vlog and someone's reading book 2, 3, 4, whatever in a series that I haven't started, I kind of get a little like distracted and I like stop paying attention to the vlog. This is an option just because I really want to finish up this trilogy. But another book of his that I have that has been getting so much love from people not even in horror spaces is Buffalo Hunter Hunter. Again, like a lot of his other books, has a focus on indigeneity, colonization. I believe we follow a character through like journal entries, and there's like a vampire element as well. So much love for this book. this year. I really like Stephen Graham Jones. Even if I don't give a book of his like 4 or 5 stars, which I did give The Only Good Indians a high rating. I think I gave it 3.5. It didn't work out the best for me. I still really enjoyed it for what it was, and I was really intrigued by it. Another book that I recently hauled was Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. Premise is something that we've heard before. It's very alien. I believe in this book we follow a repair crew who finds like a beacon distress signal from this like luxury space liner that went missing some time ago, and they go to investigate and see like what's up, like what happened, or what happened to this liner, and bad shit starts happening. Again, it's a very similar premise to Alien. I think there's also a similar premise in the first um what's it called? The Leviathan Wakes book. Yeah, the first book in The Expanse. It's not very long, and I do like sci-fi horror, like in general, in film and television as well. And then I have two like horror classics almost. Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. I first of all, this is such a lovely edition. It's like golden. I've started this book and I put it down just because I don't think I was in the mood for it. But I love the film. I haven't watched the TV show. I heard it's great though. The film so good. Tom Cruise, a Scientologist through and through, but my God, he absolutely bodied the role of Lestat, in my opinion. I loved his performance. One of my favorite performances from Tom Cruise. Brad Pitt can kick rocks, man. Allegedly a horrible person, allegedly. And then little Kirsten Dunst at like 10 years old absolutely like showed up Brad Pitt with her acting skills. Anyway, I love the film. Sorry, we're talking about the film a lot. The book, like I said, I did start reading it at some point. It's the first book in this long Vampire Chronicles series that I would like to continue to read more of. But if you're unfamiliar with this at all, this book follows a character named Louis who lives in a plantation. He is a slave owner, just so you know. That's a big element of the story that I do believe that they wrote out of like the TV show. But he meets a vampire named Lestat, and Lestat turns him into a vampire, and it's like their journey together, and it's very like homoerotic, if I remember correctly. Also, I forgot to mention, and I don't know if I'm gonna make a proper video about this ever, but there's a book up here called 1001, this teal one, 1001 books to read before you die, and it is 1001 books, and one of the books in that book is Interview with the Vampire, and I would love for that to be like a lifelong goal of mine. Definitely not accomplishable within like a year or anything, but yeah, every month I would hope to maybe take off one book, and this is one of them that I could take off. I mean, is it really hard? Yes, I'm gonna say it's hard. And then the last book, this is a bit of a chunker, but I think it's because it's a special edition. A while ago I did start reading my first Stephen King books. Well, actually, I just read one. I read one Stephen King book. It was Carrie. I absolutely loved it. There's a vlog. Don't watch it. It's probably horrible, terrible quality, and my opinions are probably dumb and stupid. But again, I did really enjoy it. I love the film Carrie. And then when I finally read the book, I really enjoyed the other information that we got from the story that we didn't get to see in the film. Next would be for me to read Salem's Lot by Stephen King. And this is the only edition that I have. This is the illustrated edition. I think it's like a 30th anniversary or something from Doubleday. It's big and it's chunky. However, I did see that this is supposed to have like maybe like an alternate ending or like short stories. So maybe it's not as like thick as it looks. I believe this is also a vampire story. A lot of vampires. I believe this is also a vampire story. I could be wrong, but it's basically about this town that gets this new like resident, and we like maybe he's like influencing people or like doing bad stuff or making people do bad stuff, or I don't know. I obviously haven't read it. I haven't read any of these. That is the TBR for this vlog. Will I read all of them? Probably not. If I did, yay me. If I don't, it's okay. Yeah, let me show you the stack. Like I said, this is what we're working with. It's a little heavy, but we are for sure going to start with the Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. So I will be back with an update. Happy Halloween. So I did end up reading the first 100 or so pages of the Hacienda. First of all, I know you're super worried about my health. I'm good. My throat is a little like raspy, but it doesn't hurt, and my nose is obviously super red because I've been like blowing my nose a lot. But I'm okay. Like I'm fine. But yeah, I read like the first 110 pages of the Hacienda, and I'm really liking it. If I didn't explain it well enough, because I hadn't read it before, we follow a character named Beatriz, and she is 20 years old. We are following her in the aftermath of the Mexican War for Independence. A lot of people have passed, specifically a lot of men who are of like fighting age, and her father was like a casualty kind of the war, and she pretty much only has her mother, and naturally the best course of action for her, for a young woman, for some semblance of freedom, is to marry a man, and she marries a uh, a gentleman who is in charge of an hacienda, like that's his property, and because she marries him, she is now like the woman of the land, the woman of the manor, I guess. So when he's not there, she has kind of some freedom there, and that's like the way that she, you know, can get that, which I totally understand, and I love that concept. I love women trying to get more out of life in whatever situations that they're in. I really like that. The writing, oh, is so good. The first chapter like blew me away. It's one of like the, maybe not like the most explosive first chapter in a book, but just the metaphors. This author loves the metaphor, so many metaphors, but I really enjoy it, and sometimes I don't love it. I remember, I think it was Maggie Stiefvater was an author that had read earlier, and I really didn't like her writing. It's something about it felt very, I didn't really like it, but this author in particular, I really like her metaphors. The first chapter had some paragraphs about God and loneliness, and I'm not religious. I was raised with like a Catholic vibe, which is a lot of Catholicism in this book. One of the main characters is a priest. And I really vibed with it. I'm just really liking this book. I hope it's a 5 star. I haven't really had any major 5 stars. I technically did give a Kate Daniels book a 5 star, but that's more so because the series overall is 5 stars to me, but not like an individual book. So I don't really have like an actual 5 star of the year so far, and it's October, which is like not great. I'm hoping this will be one, and I'm hoping Isabel Cañas is like an auto buy author for me. I am so ready and willing to buy her backlog if I really enjoy the way this book pans out. It is manifesting itself like a standard gothic. Like she's going to live in this hacienda that she thought was going to be this beautiful manor, and it's a very large, property, but it's kind of decrepit and it's not been upkept well, and she wants to like fix it up for her mother because her mother lives in Mexico City, and they live in like a like a place that like specializes in a sort of plant to make alcohol, and that's how they make their money. And creepy stuff starts happening. Our main character is seeing things, hearing voices. She feels like she's being watched, like your staple like gothic elements. But again, I've heard from multiple people now that it's not a straight gothic, and it gets more horror overtly than just gothic vibes. So we'll see how that happens. But I'm glad that I know ahead of time, because I can like really adjust my expectations. I'm fairly good at that as a reader. I would say that's like one of my reader skills. Like if we each have our own individual talents as readers, mine is that I can really like reframe my thoughts on a book on the fly. Like if I go in expecting one thing and it doesn't end up being that, it's okay. Like let's readjust a little bit and like not take it out on the book. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this. I hope I give it 5 stars. Right now, easily it could be a 4 star without question. But we'll see how it ends. And I'm sensing a romance coming on. And I I'll talk about romance later, because I have some thoughts on romances in books that I've been kind of ruminating on. It's actually really good.
Really?
So I'm alive. I went out last night with my friend, and I will probably put like some like footage or something. I didn't record a lot because I try not to record with other people. I went out last night with my friend to go watch a documentary. Don't sound impressed. It's a K-pop documentary for a group that I really like. But we went out to go watch that, and then we went out for a really late dinner, and I did have like a single drink. I'm not like hungover or anything, but I woke up late, and for some reason I'm really sore. And I'm just, my face, I literally passed out. I didn't even take off my makeup, so this is like the remnants of the evening. But I did actually finish the Hacienda last night, or before I went out with my friend. And I wanted to kind of sit with my thoughts a little bit before I talked about it. I'm giving it 4 stars. I really liked how this started. I just don't think the ending was as impactful as the beginning. Let's talk about what I liked. It was mostly like a gothic story. The ending did have more thriller, not action packed is not the word I'd use, but like it was a bit more grounded in reality, a bit more fast paced and less gothic vibes than the majority of the book. And I think maybe that's where people don't like it. I kind of knew that that was something that was going to happen going in, and when I found out a major reveal, I guess, that's when I was like, I was really liking this, and now I'm not. Not that the reveal was bad, not that the ending was bad, it just wasn't like an upward trajectory, I guess. Like I said, like it the book started off so well. The first 100 pages, the first chapter, really, I really liked it. I still think I'm gonna buy this particular book and like physically buy copies of Isabel Cañas' other work, because I did really like it. Like I want to have authors that I think overall I would like, and 4 stars is nothing like bad or anything. It just, I was hoping this was gonna be 5 stars and it wasn't. 4 stars is still pretty good. This isn't a romance, but there are romantic elements, and that's something that I really wanted to talk about. I kind of hinted at in my last clip is Isabel Cañas and Silvia Moreno Garcia both are Mexican or of Mexican descent, and the way that romance, love, affection, lust, limerence manifests in their books is something that I really enjoy. Maybe because I'm so used to romances having like that formula where it's like they get together, there's a third act breakup, declaration of love, and then, you know, happily ever after. In books that are not romances, these are not romances, they don't follow a romantic structure usually. I think maybe Silvia Moreno Garcia has maybe one book that could be really romance forward, but for the most part they have their stories and there's romance vibes in their books, and their stories don't really have to cater to that romantic structure. So the ways that they come together, these couples, or maybe one person has feelings for another person, I really like it. I'm gonna say this, I'm an adult, right? I'm almost 30 years old. I know that romances can be problematic, especially when real life, but also for younger adults who don't know better. Maybe authors are a bit more clear about what is okay and what is not okay in a relationship, but because this is an adult book and because I am an adult, I'm okay with romances having taboos. We'll just say that there is, and I don't think this is a spoiler because everyone talks about it, but there is a kind of romance between one of our characters and a priest. Some people might find that a taboo, might not like talking about that if they're religious. I'm not religious, but in other books, a lot of other Silvia Moreno Garcia books, there are characters who come together that people are like, oh, that would be a bad romance, or that doesn't sound like a good trope, or you know what I mean? Like, it's not something that would be good for a book, but it's something that could be realistic in real life. And when the authors explore that, I really enjoy it, because romance happens, or feelings, or lust, or limerence, or whatever you want to call it, happens in our day-to-day lives all the way, and it's not with the person that would be most appropriate for us for this to be like a romantic book. We just have feelings for people that just come into our lives, especially when we don't anticipate it. That's something that I really like seeing as well, like people having feelings in moments where this is not the opportune time, like a character in a very scary gothic hacienda, but then she's also having feelings for this priest. You know what I mean? Like, that's not something that you would expect in your life, but it could happen, right? You're in a very odd moment in your life and you also happen to be developing feelings for someone that you meet. Not opportune times for a romance, but it happens, if that makes sense. I just really like how unromantic these situations are, and then you still happen to find someone that you like, or someone likes you, or whatever. I hope that kind of makes sense. I'm rambling. I think next, because I'm reading so much horror, I also have to return this to the library, sadly, but because I'm reading so much horror, and I try to separate my reading genre wise, like I try not to just read fantasy all in one go, or thrillers all in one go. I need to find stark differences in these horror books within the vlog. So I think the next book I'm going to read is Dead Silence. Let me get it. So we have Dead Silence here. The hacienda takes place in a historical setting in Mexico. I'm assuming this is going to take place in the near or far future and in space. So like both horror, but very different types of horror, different elements, so that it doesn't feel too samey, which is what I worry about when doing like trying to read from one genre consistently. I want to branch out and do something different, but I can't because this is a horror only vlog. So yeah, that's next on the agenda. I'll be back. Sorry, my energy is super low. I'm really tired, but I did want to update the vlog. Oh, the air kicked in. Oh, it's gonna sound so ugly. Sorry, I'm not gonna get my mic, but the air, which is weird because it's kind of cold today. Shockingly, in South Texas we had a cold front. Sorry. Okay, reading update. Actually, I did finish Dead Silence, and I am going to give this 4 stars. This book excels in it being very like cinematic and very like not necessarily audience aware, but it's so easily translatable to film. Maybe because I already had like film in my mind when I'm sorry, my dog needs attention. I already had a film in my mind as I was reading this, but it's not very nuanced, which is not a bad thing, especially if you want something more popcorny, just like surface level, this is what this book is. It's very like fun, exciting, like scary read. The one main issue I have, and I'm gonna try to avoid major spoilers because it has to do with reveals. We know that our crew that we are following, this repair crew, or this crew, gets like a beacon signal, distress signal, and they go and investigate this luxury liner that has not been seen for 20 years. Like very wealthy people were on this ship. Space travel follows like the same like nautical laws, so like finders keepers type of rules are technically in place. Prove that the ship exists, and we found it, and it belongs to us now. They want money. They're not super wealthy people, so your average like working class people just want something to call theirs. Obviously something bad happened for the ship that had all these safety measures to like go bad, and naturally like people died, and it's very gruesome. The reveal for what led for any of this to happen wasn't my favorite. It makes sense, like 60-70% of it makes sense with the reveal that we're given, but there's like one major thing that I feel like the reveal doesn't explain one major thing. If you've read this, maybe you feel the same way. I know some things don't always need an explanation, but when the author goes into such detail about like how things ended up the way they ended up, I feel like the explanation then needs to make sense because you took the time to explain all the aspects of what happened. It just doesn't make sense, or one aspect of the reveal doesn't make sense to me. It's a big one. And if we're thinking about this in like a film way, which is, I know this is a book, but I feel like if this was ever made into a film, the general audiences would get the reveal that they get, and they're like, but how does that explain this one character? And I'll leave it at that. So it was fun. I'm just giving it 4 stars. I would read more from this author. I might not buy the physical books going forward. I'm glad that I had the time to read this physically, but maybe I might borrow their other books from the library instead of buying them physically. But if I love one of their other books that I read, I would buy it. But we're borrowing from the library. We're gonna be more frugal this coming year. In general, we should be a bit more frugal because of things that are going on politically in my country anyways. So that's another book down. Nothing motivates me more to read a book than finishing another book. I know a lot of people like to sit with their thoughts after they finish a book, which I should probably do that as well, but I finished this book at around 1-ish and I immediately wanted to read something else. So I looked at my stack of books that I had chose for this vlog, and I immediately went to my library to see if they had like an ebook copy because this was 1 in the morning and I didn't want to like hold a book up as I'm trying to like also go to sleep. So I thought to read one of the classic horrors, which was either Salem's Lot or Interview with the Vampire. Fortunately, Salem's Lot was not available in my library or the Houston library, which I also have a card at, but Interview with the Vampire was. So I started reading it and I got like 10% of the way through last night or this morning, I guess, and I'm slowly getting through it. It's not a long book, at least my version is not very long. It's like 290 something pages. However, the font is fairly small and the line spacing is also very small. It's taking me a while to get through like just 10 pages alone, and the writing is also not hard, but it's very
it's very written, not bad, not like overly written, but it's not something that you or I would ever speed read. I have gone to the part where Louis is obviously talking about his life to this one reporter, journalist, young man, and he's starting from the beginning of his life. And we've gone to the part where he's met Lestat, and Lestat has turned him into a vampire. That's not a spoiler. I feel like that's a very obvious part of like the synopsis. One thing that I always kind of grapple with, and I could probably look up author interviews from Anne Rice, is the decision to make Louis a plantation owner, slave owner. Not to say that we can't have characters like that, because those people were real, people own slaves, and we shouldn't not have it in fiction. If it's like too problematic or whatever, that's not what I'm saying. I wonder what the motivation was, because up until this point, as far as I've gotten, which isn't very far, I'm only like on page 30 something, the main reason I see that Louis was a plantation owner was because Lestat wanted like a comfy life, and he found Louis, and Louis had a plantation, and so Lestat turns Louis, and now Lestat has like wealth. That's like the main reason, which is fun. Like that's like a reason. I can't say like it's like a bad reason, it's a plot reason. But I feel like if this was written today, I feel like there'd been more discussion about Louis and his views on Black people that is more aware of like 2025 discourse, if that makes sense. Because Louis does, at least in this book so far, Louis does acknowledge that he did not think highly of enslaved people. He says he did not like value them or recognize their intelligence, so which leads me to believe that he does like grow as a person. I just feel like the conversations about owning someone who lived through that and who oppressed people that way, I just feel like there'd be like more conversation about that if this was published in 2025. This was originally published in like, what was it, the 80s, 70s, 76 I think. So again, I'm not saying it's problematic or we shouldn't read this. I just think how different this book could have been if it was written in a different time. And that's probably why we have the interpretation that we got the TV show, where Louis is actually a Black man in the AMC version, and it takes place during the 1920s when they first meet, I want to say, Louis and Lestat. But yeah, it's very intense, the relationship between both of these vampires. Louis does not like him, and Lestat is such a character. And I knew this going in because I do remember reading this at least like the first 60 pages before. But Louis is like not a character that is great to follow. He's very like ugh. But Lestat is so fun. Those are my thoughts so far. I hope that I can finish this, if not by tonight, tomorrow. Tomorrow's pretty much the last day I can film if I want to get this up by Halloween. So hopefully I can finish this book by tomorrow, and then maybe start on Southern Book Clubs. That's kind of what I'm feeling after this. Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. That is the update. Oh, I forgot. I do have a bookish update. I got my Illuma crate for this month. I am very addicted to things, and I worry that getting my first Illuma, well, this is my second Illuma crate, is going to influence me to try other subscription services and just like spend money there. I did already open this, I already know what it is, but I got the Illuma crate version of The Isle in the Silver Sea by Tasha Suri. I have not read from this author, though I do have some of their books on my shelf. This is so beautiful. This is supposed to be a standalone romantasy sapphic. We follow a knight and a witch who are fated to like fall in love over and over again. They're doomed as well, so their lives keep repeating, something like that. I feel like it might break my heart. Obviously, we probably want to see the details, so this is the cover. I think the cover is beautiful. I think the original cover is also quite stunning. Here are the edges, the back, if you want to see that detail. The naked hardback is always so beautiful from the Illuma crate. If you don't like the covers, which I know a lot of people don't like the covers that are given, the naked hardcover is always so stunning. I actually don't mind the art in this one. Art is hit or miss for me, just because I have my particular taste when it comes to like character art. This is also really pretty. Sometimes some character art looks really like contemporary, but it's in like an epic fantasy book. I don't like that, but I do like the art in this one, especially on like the hardcover. So that is my update. I hope you don't mind me sharing that. I did get it during the filming of this vlog, so I thought I'd show you this special edition. It looks beautiful, and it is a standalone, so if I do pick it up, I don't have like a series to like continue on with, which I am in the middle of a lot of series. And I did also go to the Goodwill, which I actually had a really good Goodwill day. Was it 2 weeks ago or last week? But I'll show those in my next book haul, which I just uploaded last month's book haul, so you should go watch that as well. Okay, peace. Hey, so I will not be able to finish Interview with the Vampire in this vlog. I'm super sorry. I tried to do like 5 books in a vlog. I had a feeling I wasn't going to be able to do it for this one, but I hoped at least 3 books. I got to talk about 3 books, or at least finish 3 books. So yeah, let's talk about Interview with the Vampire. I do have some more thoughts. I'm only about 40% of the way in, and we're going to brush my hair while I do that. So I've actually been reading a lot of this on my Kindle. Reading on Kindle is just faster for some reason. Like, I just read better faster on Kindle. I just took a shower, by the way, that's why my hair's all wet. I have more thoughts on Louis. I want to continue talking about his character choice of being a slave owner, because it's not a topic I want to shy away from, but it's also like why. Anyways, it's such a like a vampire thing for some reason, where like a bunch of creatives have made vampires either like Confederate soldiers or like slave owners or something. It's very like odd. And so in the last clip, I talked about how, as far as I could tell, the only reason why Anne Rice had chosen to make Louis a plantation owner is because she needed him to be wealthy. That's what attracted Lestat to him. And again, there's nothing like morally wrong with having like a character like that in fiction. If that was a deliberate choice, what are you saying about that character? Because we are supposed to sympathize with Louis. He's a very like emotional person, and he does talk at length about what he feels and all that kind of stuff, and his humanity. So why choose that? A slave owner's a pretty shitty fucking person. Like, it's a pretty horrible history to have. And I was like, okay, whatever. Why not make him like a merchant's son or someone related to the aristocracy or something? However, recently, one chapter that I got to, and I don't want to spoil anything, but we've met a character named Claudia. If you know who she is, and you know who I'm talking about, just know that Claudia comes into Louis' life, and they have a very strong relationship. But they both have very shitty relationships with Lestat. They don't like Lestat for reasons at this point in the book. And while they're musing about Lestat to each other, they specifically use the verbiage of slave owner. Like, they feel like they're slaves to Lestat, and they like belong to him, and they can't live their lives without him. Like, he needs to be in their life, and they don't like that. And Louis specifically is like, well, he made me, and how can I exist in the world knowing that someone like Lestat is out there? Because at this point in the book, Louis thinks without spoilers, but Louis doesn't know that if there's any other vampires out there, it's literally just Lestat. So how do you live your life knowing that you are alone in the world, but not really, because Lestat still exists, right? So they kind of have this intense connection that they dislike each other, but they are very much linked. And so they use the verbiage of like, they feel slaves to him. And I'm thinking that maybe Anne Rice chose to make Louis a slave owner because the similarities and the differences between Lestat and Louis is something that comes up a lot within the writing, but also within the characters. Lestat gets very frustrated with Louis because Louis does not like killing. He does not enjoy it. He's not like Lestat. And Lestat is always pushing him to be more like him, to be more like monstrous or whatever. At the end of the day, Louis is a very different character to Lestat, but they do have similarities. And the treatment of Lestat, or the way Lestat treats Louis, holding things over his head, is very much how Louis would have obviously treated the people that he owned. And the fact that Louis doesn't see that, maybe that's the intentional part of it. Maybe that's what Anne Rice was getting at with this character choice. I know it might seem like an insignificant part of like Louis' history. I think it's very important. I think it's very important because that's who he was as a human, and that's always the part of his life that he looks back to, and it's a huge aspect of his character. when he starts telling his story to this journalist, this young man. He's like, I need to tell you what I was before I became a vampire. It's a huge part of my story. Yeah, that's kind of my musings on that. I don't have like a definitive good, bad, problematic, non-problematic stance or whatever. That's that on that part. I do really like the discussion of morality here. I am so fascinated. Obviously killing people is bad. I don't need to tell you that. However, you know, I'm not saying that Miss Rice is convincing me that it's okay to kill people, but vampires are obviously, one, they're not real, but were they to be real, we would obviously be their life source. And I don't want to compare like humans to like poultry, but like I shouldn't feel squeamish about like killing a chicken because I eat chicken. Like I love, I eat meat, I eat animals and animal byproducts. And there's nothing morally like wrong with like killing the food that you need to survive, cooking a fish or whatever. Where am I going with this? I don't know. The discussions that Louis and Lestat have about feeding on people and killing people to survive, and yes, they can technically live on like rats or whatever. This is what they crave. The experience that Louis has whenever he chooses to take human life and feed on people, and how that tastes and how that makes him feel is completely different than when he drinks animal blood. I don't have like a good comparison, but I would imagine it's like living on like hospital food versus going to like a home cooked meal. Like the difference in that, there's this one paragraph, I should have tabbed it but I didn't, on the similarities between God and vampire. I thought it was really interesting. There's just like a lot of great paragraphs here on morality and the things that we do, and in certain situations whether that's okay or not. Sorry for the lighting changes, there's an ad playing. I just think that Anne Rice is very wordy, but I actually don't mind. Usually when characters just kind of talk at length about one thing, usually like emotions and feelings, I get really frustrated and annoyed because it's like, okay, like move on, slash you're kind of full of it. But I don't mind Anne Rice's like characters going on and on about one particular thing. I really like it. It doesn't bother me at all, which is not normal. Some things also make me really uncomfortable, but like purposeful. I do think that that's intentional, specifically the relationship between Louis and Claudia. I don't want to spoil like her part in the story because I don't know if it's actually like on the summary. It technically is on the summary, but I would not recommend reading this whole summary because it spoils a lot. Just know that Claudia is a very young person, and her relationship with Louis is like, from the outside, like a father-daughter relationship, but it's so much more than that. And it does make me uncomfortable, not because there's anything like explicit or whatever going on, but you can't, with the amount of words that Anne Rice is using to describe the relationship between these two characters, and I get it, like I understand the words that she's putting on paper, I get it, I still don't feel it. Not in a bad way. I would imagine it's like the way that someone is explaining what it's like to have like an identical twin. Like you can use all the words in the world to describe what that feeling is like. I still won't understand it. And that's how the relationship between Louis and Claudia feels like to me. The author describes it well. It's so entrenched in vampirism, and it's so nuanced as well because of certain reasons I won't get into, but it's not just like a father-daughter relationship, it's also like comrades, it's also like peers, it's also like, I don't want to use the word lovers, but it's also like very emotionally intense between them. And like I don't know what that feels like, but I like reading about it even though it makes me uncomfortable. I've been very interested in like uncomfortableness in books, and I get that in gothic books, and I put this in this vlog because it's always put in like the horror genre, and it has more of like a gothic element, which gothic stuff is like part of the horror genre. Yeah, I've been really interested in like uncomfortable things that are taboo, or things that really kind of question or have me confront morals, or my morals anyways. I just really like this experience reading this book. I don't know what I'm gonna rate it for sure. Right now I'm sitting at a 4. I don't imagine it'd be lower than a 4. unless something dramatically horrible happens that I really don't like towards the end, which I've heard the ending is like maybe weird. I'm hoping it's a 5-star. I technically only have one 5-star, and it's a Kate Daniels book by Alona Andrews, and that's only because that 5 stars, the book that made me realize that the Kate Daniels series is 5 stars, but the book itself is not 5 stars. That's just when I decided it was overall 5-star series. Does that make sense? I don't actually have a physical like single book that's 5 stars this year, and we're gonna finish October like as I upload this anyways. Sorry about the snoring, this dog, my god. But yeah, this is the last clip for the vlog. The next one will be like me wrapping up the video. Sorry there's not much more horror, but it's like a quick small Halloween vlog. Maybe I can upload it, have it up by the time you get home from like trick-or-treating or whatever. I don't have a costume actually. These are like Josie and the Pussycat ears. I didn't get a costume this year. I was too lazy, I guess. But yeah, I will wrap up the video in the next clip. Okay everyone, time to wrap up this vlog. Like I said in the last clip, I only really got to read 2.5-ish books. I try to read like 5 per reading vlog. I feel like that's a nice good number. Only got 2.5, which is still pretty good. On average, I've been reading about 2 to 3 books a month this past year, which has been very sad for me. But this month I actually finished like 6-ish books, which is good, and a good chunk of them were horror, so I'm not mad about that. But just as a recap, the first book that I did finish in this vlog was the Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. I am sticking with a 4. Oh, this is better. Okay, this is probably better. I'm sticking with a 4-star rating. Did really like the beginning. The first chapter was so stunning to read. The ending was not the best. I just wish it was a bit more impactful. It wasn't bad, it just wasn't great for me, so I'm sticking with a 4-star, but I'm very excited to read more from this author, and I'd probably actually like go out and buy her books because I found this one for the most part incredibly enjoyable. Sorry if you hear snoring, I have a pug. This was a win for me. I'm glad I borrowed from my library. Support your libraries, but I will be getting physical copies of her books from now on. After that, I read and finished Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. This was a very fun, popcorny type read. Something that is so, you know, you don't have to really think that much to read something like this. I don't really like the whole like I turn my brain off to read, but if there's a book that could do that for you, it's this one. Maybe some discussions on like capitalism and labor stuff, but for the most part it's a very straightforward book. Not much more to that, but it was fun. I did enjoy it. I will probably go forward borrow these books from my library because I am interested in the other titles that this author has, and I actually do think I have one ebook checked out right now. I do randomly just take out ebooks from my library. Not bad. I'm sticking with a 4-star with this one as well. The ending, again, it's with these endings, they don't like hit hard enough for me, or I found some of the explanations in this book, like the reveals, not great. And the last book that I read in this vlog that I didn't get to finish, as you know, was Interview with a Vampire. I am really enjoying this. I do think, strangely enough, it's the writing that's really getting me in this book. And as someone who like talks about what they're reading online, I always struggle to talk about writing or like discuss like what it is about an author's writing that really gets me. I'm not really good at putting that into words. When I used to do like long form reviews and stuff, writing was the part of the review that I really like struggled kind of like expressing myself there. I you know, what is good writing, bad writing, what do I like, what I don't like. That's still really tough for me, but something about the way the Anne Rice like weaves words together, the way that she speaks about emotions and morality and these relationships that are super like fraught, I really enjoy it. And I hope this is a 5-star read. If I end up really liking this, I have another series to continue. There's quite a few books in these Vampire Chronicles. Here is a little stack of books that I read in this little itty bitty horror Halloween vlog. I hope to get this video out to you soon, hopefully at least by Halloween evening. I mean, you can watch this whenever, but it would be nice for this to go up if you wanted something to watch on Halloween. If not, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, I had a good vlog. I think I read some good things. Let me know what thoughts you have on any of the books that I've talked about. Like them, dislike them. Have I put you on some? Have I put you off of some of these books? I'd like to hear anything you have to say in the comments down below. I will also link my social medias down below, as well as some far more important links. Feel free to like, dislike, comment, or subscribe, or do neither. It's all cool with me. I hope you have a happy Halloween. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.